I stood frozen, my heart pounding, as my son Ethan screamed, his wheelchair scraping across the asphalt behind Laura Mitchell's gleaming SUV. The neighborhood street, usually so quiet, echoed with his cries, all because of an accessibility ramp we'd built for him. It was supposed to give him freedom, but now it had unleashed a nightmare. How could I have known that my years as a disability rights lawyer would become Ethan's only shield against a homeowners association drunk on power? The screech of tires had yanked me from my coffee that morning, and when I looked out the window, there she was, Laura, the HOA president, blocking our driveway, while VYing papers at my 13-year-old like he'd committed crime. Ethan, born with muscular dystrophy, had found a spark of independence with that ramp. It let him will himself out to shoot hoops or chat with neighbors, things most kids take for granted. But Laura, in her crisp blazer and fake smile, didn't care. "This ramp breaks Pinewood Grove's rules," she snapped as I ran outside. "I'm a VYD Carter, Ethan's dad," I said, stepping between them. She barely glanced at me. "Laura Mitchell, HOA president. Your ramp VY OLAT's Section 8. Tear it down by tomorrow, or it's due la 200 a day." Ethan's eyes widened, his voice small. "Dad, they can't take it, can they?" Before I could answer, Laura leaned toward him, her voice dripping with venom. "My cousin has your condition, kid, and he gets by fine without wrecking the neighborhood." It was a lie, and it made my blood boil. She didn't stop there. Pointing at Ethan's basketball hoop, modified so he could play from his chair, she added, "That goes too. No sports equipment VY Seibel from the street." Ethan's face crumpled, and I saw the fight drain out of him. "I don't want to cause trouble, Dad," he whispered as Laura strutted back to her SUV. My heart broke, but I wasn't about to let this go. That night, 3 emails from the HOA hit my inbox, each citing a new VY Olationer ramp, the hoop, even our mailbox's unapproved color. Fines piled up to due, la 500 day. My wife, Emily, looked pale. "What do we do to VYD?" I took her hand. "We fight. I've taken on cases like this before. They don't know who they're messing with." The next morning, Laura was back, her SUV parked across our drive with 2 security guards in tow. "We're Remo VYing the unauthorized structure," she said with a smirk. "Istud firm. Not without a court order." Ethan, against my orders to stay inside, wheeled out, his voice trembling. "Please, I need that ramp to get in and out." Instead of empathy, Laura grabbed his wheelchair and yanked him toward her SUV. "I'm taking him to the HOA office to read the rules himself," she sneered, dragging him over uneven pavement. Ethan's chair jolted, his hands gripping the wheels in panic. I sprinted after them, shouting, "Let go of my son." She didn't stop, even as we hit the main street. "He needs to learn the world doesn't bend for him," she yelled, loud enough for neighbors to peek out their doors. Ethan's cries grew desperate. "Dad, I'm scared." I caught up, wrenching his chair free. Laura's face twisted with rage. "He can't just sit in that chair forever. Maybe you should try walking for once." The cruelty of her words hung in the air, and Ethan's tears broke me. Neighbors were watching now, some filming on their phones. I pulled out mine and started recording. "Ms. Mitchell, are you saying my son's faking his disability?" She leaned into the camera, undeterred. "I'm saying accommodations aren't handouts. That ramp's an eyesore, and he could try harder." I zoomed in on her HOA badge, her title clear as day. "Thank you for showing everyone who you are." As I wheeled Ethan home, Laura shouted, "Contractors are coming tomorrow, and your fine's double." I leaned down to Ethan. "Don't worry, buddy. She's got no idea what's coming." Back home, I dug into my old files. Before Ethan was born, I'd fought housing discrimination cases across 4 states. This wasn't just about a ramp, it was about power, and Laura had picked the wrong family to bully. At 6:30 a.m., engines roared outside. 3 trucks lined the curb, workers unloading tools under Laura's direction. I rushed out, phone recording. "This is private property." Laura smirked. "The easement's HOA land. Check your map." I held up our property survey. "The ramp's on our land, and you're about to destroy private property." She snatched the paper, barely glancing at it. "Our new agreement overrides that." Then Ethan's voice came from the doorway. "Dad, what's happening?" Laura saw her chance. She marched over, grabbed his chair, and yanked him forward, nearly tipping him. "Your dad's teaching you to break rules," she hissed, pushing him down the walkway and into the street. Ethan cried out as his chair hit the curb, pain flashing across his face. I ran after them, shouting, "You're hurting him." Laura kept going, dragging him toward the community center. "He needs to toughen up," she called over her shoulder. Neighbors gathered, horrified, as Ethan's hands bled from gripping his wheels to stop her. I caught up, blocking her path. "You've just assaulted a disabled minor in front of witnesses," I said, pointing to the phone's recording. Laura scoffed, but her eyes flickered with doubt. Back home, Emily bandaged Ethan's raw hands while I made calls to my law firm, the State Housing Commission, and a journalist friend who loved exposing bullies. Ethan, pale and quiet, asked, "Dad, will we lose our house?" I knelt beside him. "No, Buddy, we're fighting for everyone who's been hurt by her." A text buzzed. A neighbor had security footage of Laura tampering with our ramp at 2 a.m. Then the doorbell rang. A police officer stood there, citing an HOA complaint. This wasn't just about us, Anna Maria, it was about every family Laura had terrorized. At 3 a.m., I found it. Subsection 47.c of the HOA bylaws, requiring compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Laura had broken her own rules. By morning, we were served 5 violation notices, demanding the ramp's removal in 24 hours. I texted my old partner, Michael, a property law expert. He arrived with paralegals, and we drafted an emergency community meeting notice, citing the bylaws. Ethan insisted on helping deliver flyers. "I'm not hiding, Dad," he said, his voice steady. That night, over 50 neighbors packed the clubhouse, their fear turning to anger as they shared stories Laura finding a family for a medical alert system, EVYTing another for a therapy dog. I stood tall. What happened to Ethan wasn't just wrong, it was illegal. Voices erupted. "She tore out my accessible garden. She fined us for our daughter's medical parking spot." Ethan wheeled forward, his voice clear. "I just want to live here like everyone else." The room roared with applause. Then Laura burst in with security and a lawyer. "This meeting's unauthorized," she shouted. Ethan faced her. "You can't drag us all across the street." Laughter broke the tension, and neighbors stood firm. The HOA treasurer, Harold, stepped forward. "The board never approved your actions, Laura." A neighbor's email pinned security footage of Laura damaging our ramp. I held up my phone. "Is this your protection?" The room exploded in shouts as Laura's lawyer dragged her out. The next morning, our ramp was gone, pieces scattered across our lawn. Ethan's face fell, but I dialed 911. The story hit the news, and by evening, volunteers rebuilt the ramp stronger, better. A cop arrived, initially citing Laura's vandalism claim, but after seeing the footage, he filed a harassment report instead. Our story went viral. A crowdfunding campaign raised $30,000 for legal fees. 3 days later, we sued Laura and the HOA for ADA and Fair Housing Act violations. In court, the footage of Laura dragging Ethan stunned the room. The judge's voice was ice. "In 30 years, I've rarely seen such disregard for human decency." She dissolved the HOA board, ordered Laura to pay damages, and sentenced her to 40 years for assault and hate crimes. A federal monitor would watch the HOA for 5 years. Pinewood Grove changed. The new board, including Mrs. Nguyen, passed the Ethan Protocol, prioritizing accessibility. Neighbors installed ramps and wider doors. Laura's house sold to an accessibility advocate. Best of all, neighbors became family in kids to therapy, supporting each other's struggles. 6 months later, Ethan led a Wheels and Wheels race, kids on bikes and wheelchairs speeding down accessible paths, his laughter ringing out. Watching him, I knew we'd won more than a lawsuit. We'd build a home. But what do you think? Was Laura just enforcing rules, or was she a bully hiding behind power? Should HOAs have the right to override federal accessibility laws? Could you forgive someone who hurt your child like that? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story moved you. and subscribe for more real-life dramas that spark debate.